welcome to Ask Star News Group. I'm Kelly Rizzetta, and every Friday I'll be taking a question from the readers, and I'll bring an employee of Star News Group on the program, whether it's an editor, a reporter, or a photographer, to answer that question. Today, I'm joined by Kelly Rizzetta, the managing editor of the Ocean Star newspaper. Welcome, Kelly.
Hi, Jamie. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for being here. So, Kelly, I've got a two-part question for you today.
Okay.
The first part of my question is, how do you come up with the headlines for the newspaper?
That's a great question because really the headlines are, in a way, the most important part of a news story. You could have the greatest news story in the world, but nobody's going to read it if it doesn't have a good headline.
Right. So, who actually comes up with the headline?
Well, it's really up to the reporter. They write a preliminary headline when they write the story. When they submit that story for editing, it's then up to an editor like myself to go over that headline and make sure it really tells the most important part of that news story and tells it in a compelling way.
Okay. So, what are some of the common pitfalls of headline writing?
Well, that's actually a very important question as well. Sometimes reporters, they get bogged down in the details of the story, and it's a headline that does tell something about the story, but it doesn't tell it in a compelling way. So as you know, Star News Group papers cover a lot of council meetings. So we get a lot of, you might get into the trap of council discusses X, council discusses garbage policy, council discusses tax rate, and that headline doesn't tell me anything about the story. What was discussed, what went on.
So what would you do, say, for council discusses garbage policy? How would you make that a little bit more compelling for the readers?
Well, you just want to use more vibrant language. Instead of council discusses garbage policy, what did they discuss about it? Are they considering changing it? Are they considering going from 1 pickup a week to 2, or vice versa? And you want to let people know how that change was received at the council meeting. So, for instance, if a reporter gave me council discusses garbage policy, I might say, council drops second garbage pickup. Or in rare instances, you might want to use something a little more fun, like a play on words, perhaps. Obviously, that doesn't come into play as much, but you know what? If there was a big outcry, a public outcry at the council meeting over the garbage policy change, residents, new garbage policy stinks. It's a fun headline. It really draws readers in.
It's true, it does. Well, Kelly, here's the second part of your question.
Sure.
Once you have a headline, how do you get it to fit on the page? Because I notice in the newspaper, the headlines tend to fit really nicely with the way the story looks on the page. And like down here, you have like a 3-line headline, but that also fits really nicely with the text. So how do you do that?
Definitely, it's another process. When you're laying out a page, many things compete, and everything affects the way everything else on the page looks. So a headline, you have to consider the space for the headline as it relates to the photos on the page, the story itself. For pages other than the front page, you may also have to consider advertisements and how they fit on the page. So basically, we first determine how much space we have for this headline. And then once we have the space, how are we going to make the headline we have fit in that space? Most often we'll do a rewrite to get the headline to fit. With a rewrite, you have to be careful because you want to preserve the original intent of the reporter and still make sure that headline accurately describes that story. Other than a rewrite, we do have some layout tricks. We can adjust incrementally the space between the letters and the letters themselves. So we can work with that, and once we arrive at a combination of all those, we usually have a headline that looks pretty good on the page.
Well, great. Kelly, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I hope to be back.
We look forward to having you again. And if you have a question that you would like to ask Star News Group, you can email me directly at jrizzetta@thecoaststar.com. We'll be answering questions every Friday, so look for yours in the future.